Race 2 for the Euroformula Open Championship in round 5 of the 2025 season here in Paul Ricard, the 5.822 kilometre circuit. We'll play host to another 15 laps or 30 minutes of racing, whichever we hit first. And it is the first of our 2 top 6 reverse grid races. Both of them today, and both of them will have our debutant Preston Lambert on pole position for them after he qualified 6th yesterday and finished 6th in the race as well. That's how we calculate our reverse grid races for these 2 encounters. And so a debutant once again, it was with Benjamin Berta in Budapest last time out as well, and now with Preston Lambert as well for BVM Racing, who has done a solid job so far in his first outing in this championship, coming over from the Euro Cup series, so no stranger to Formula 3 level cars. There he is, just pulling up into that pole position slot. He'll be sharing the front row of the grid with Fernando Barrichello, who had a good qualifying, putting it on the front row of the grid, but it came unstuck a little bit in the race. There's another of our debutants for this weekend, Gino Trapper, the Argentinian racer, coming out of Spanish F4. His debut has been a little more difficult with some reliability woes in free practice and then stalling the car on the grid yesterday ahead of race 1. But it's closing up in the championship after a 4th victory of the season for Timothy Kaharczyk and a dominant display as well from pole position, with Yevon David finishing in 2nd place, but no points for championship leader Michael Shin after contact with Ed Pearson and a very high speed off into Scene Corner. Chris Stevens and George Morgan here in the commentary box, ready to talk you through the next 15 laps of action.
We certainly are, Chris, and what a change it certainly left us with in terms of the championship. Michael Shin obviously forfeiting the lead in the title race. Obviously came into this weekend 4 points between himself and Yevon David. It's now David with the lead in the championship. And of course, Timothy Kaharczyk with that win, it does bring that points gap closer. And it means it's now also very close in between Ps3 and Ps2 as well. So still all to play for, with still various races still to come. It's not going to be long before, of course, we do head to Red Bull Ring when we come back after the summer break. And then on top of that, a trip to Barcelona, of course, home weekend for the Euroformula Open Championship and the GT Sport organisation. And then at the Temple of Speed, Monza, we'll hope to crown a champion when we reach the precipice of this mountain of this series. We obviously run 3 races across the weekend, and it always offers a bit of a twist in the title race. And certainly with the 3 talented young drivers that we have in front of us, with the likes of Michael Shin, Yevon David and Timothy Kaharczyk, it's going to be a ferocious one. There is our P1 sitter, Preston Lambert, coming in for the first time in the Euroformula Open Championship. And as you so rightly said, Chris, a mightily impressive weekend so far. 6th place in qualifying yesterday. Not many rookies can achieve a result like that.
17-year-old from Sacramento, California, made his debut in the US West Coast series before coming to Europe in 2024 in the Formula Winter Series, and then doing the main season in Spanish F4. Stepped up to Euro Cup 3 for this season and making his debut in the Euroformula Open Championship this weekend. We understand it will just be the one outing for now. Of course, budget dependent, of course, whether he gets a couple more outings later in the season. Also calendar dependent as well, because I understand there are a few clashes between the series. We saw Jose Garfias there. He was on the podium yet again yesterday. Yevon David, who finished 2nd, and Timothy Kaharczyk, after the win yesterday, will go from 6th on the grid. It is the race 1 result with the top 6 reversed. What that of course means is that Michael Shin and Ed Pearson, 2 very rapid drivers, will be going from the back of the grid.
Yeah, obviously we just saw Timothy Kaharczyk there. That win yesterday was very important for BVM. It was their first win at Paul Ricard here in the Euroformula Open Championship, and breaking the run of Team Motorpark victories ever since 2023, where Bryce Aaron opened up the account after Noda Racing, Juju Noda won the opening race of 2023. Finn Green back again, starting P8 just behind another American Everett stack as well, with Timothy Kaharczyk, as we said, starting from 6th position. Gennaro Trapper in his first weekend of Euroformula Open Championship, be looking for a better start this time, obviously trying to get used to the carbon clutch system that the Dallara 324 embraces. Further back, the return of Paolo Branchnik in Gold Cup class, driving for NV Racing. Of course, we saw him on the podium again in the Gold Cup side of things after yesterday's race. Michael Shin, now this is going to be a monumental task for this young man, starting P11 on the grid. He's been there and done this before, though. Can be the king of recovery drives here in the Euroformula Open Championship. We saw it back at Spa-Francorchamps, where he was recovering after a spin. After making contact with Everett Stack at the bus stop, he could yet perform here again.
Let's remind you what happened yesterday. It was Timic Harcek and Yevon David starting on the front row of the grid together. Yevon David straight into the slipstream, but a perfect start from Harcek would see him lead into the first corner, despite Yevon David's best efforts trying to get around the outside. We saw Michael Shin skating and scampering across the escape road on the first lap. Some shuffling further down. Jose Garfias charging his way down the Mistral to try and get around FIFO Barrichello, who had a good start from third on the grid, but in the end he would have to yield. This was the moment, though, that it all came undone for the championship leader, Michael Shin, getting tagged by Ed Pearson, and very lucky for that to not be any worse than what it was, but it did put him out of the race, as it did for Ed Pearson as well, and his two nearest title rivals went on to finish 1 and 2 in that race. Firstly, with Gerharcek, a dominant display to take his 4th victory of the season, and after a couple of races where he was unable to convert those pole positions into victories, he's done it on back-to-back race weekends now in Budapest and here in Paul Ricard. This is what it's done to the championship standings then. Yevon David now leads by 14 points to Michael Shin, and Timic Harcek now just 17 back from the championship leader. It's been closing up very nicely as we head into the second half of this season. Jose Garfias and Ed Pearson ready to close up on them as well. Race 2 for the Euroformula Open Championship. Here is how they line up. Preston Lambert, the debutant for BVM Racing, lines up on pole position ahead of FIFO Barrichello. Then it's Diego de la Torre and Jose Garfias, an all-Mexican row 2 there from Team Motorpark. Then comes Yevon David and Timic Harcek, yesterday's race winner. Not benefiting from the reverse grid, though, was Everett Stack and Finn Green, the Nilsson Racing driver, going from 8th on the grid. Then it's another debutant, Gino Trapper, the Argentinian, and then Paolo Brajnik, our resident gold class driver. Michael Shin, the pre-event championship leader, and Ed Pearson going from the back of the grid after contact at Scene Corner yesterday. Formation lap now underway. George, what must be going through the head of Preston Lambert? It's his first weekend here, and he's not only got to do this once, he's got to do this twice this weekend from pole.
Yeah, a lot of confidence, though, to come in for this young man, because he mastered the clutch system yesterday to get off the line. Very few can do that. I've seen some of the best that we have seen in the Euroformula Open, including the likes of Oliver Goethe, who went on to win the title back in 2022. At this very track, he stalled from pole position back that year. So obviously it was a real struggle that season. In fact, no, it wasn't pole position because Christian Mansell was on pole for that campaign. But still, nonetheless, he was towards the front end of the order, stalled the car. No such issues with Preston Lambert. If he can keep that up, he'll be in a great position. And the key thing is here for BVM, and Timic Harcek could be wondering this as well. I would imagine, wouldn't be surprised if there is some team assistance here from Preston Lambert's part to aid Timic Harcek. BVM are chasing this title. It's a huge opportunity here for BVM, having Lambert at the front. You can then throw perhaps a little bit of a curveball here for the Motorpark guys in behind and open the door for Harcek here.
Oh, I wouldn't. What a pessimistic view that they would...
Well, it's called
do
teamwork,
such
Chris.
a thing. I know.
Teamwork.
It's just they haven't been in a position up until this year to have that, because they've only ever run one car since they came back to the championship in 2022, and and the other car as well.
Well, they had Ryabov in the past.
Yeah, well, but that's the thing. They only had Ryabov for the first 2 rounds, I think, and then they were running solo in, I think, Hockenheim. They were definitely solo in Budapest. So, yeah, it's a unique opportunity here for BVM to try and play some tactics and use that to try and help Harcek get up the field. You can race here. We have seen some cracking battles in the past. Of course, you've got the run all the way up the Mistral through the chicane and up the other side as well. And so there are plenty of opportunities to try and find a way through. And I'm sure that will be on the mind of young Lambert as well. Now have FIFO Barrichello alongside him on the front row of the grid. But we will wait to see the progress of the likes of Yevhen David, Timit Kahacek, and of course Michael Shin as well, trying to undo the damage that was done yesterday in his championship hopes. So the grid forming up then. Everett Stack there just peeling into his grid spot of 7th. Another American on the grid. BVM Racing watching in anticipation. We can see Timit Kahacek's engineer there, Matteo Trinanzi, and Eddon Simmons, the Nielsen Racing driver coach as well, watching on. Sure, he'll have a few notes after every session. So the grid is formed, the green flag waved at the back. We have all 5 lights on for the second time this weekend. We're racing in Paul Ricard. Great start from Preston Lambert from pole position. Yevhen David being squeezed over onto the blue runoff area and onto the curbing there as well by the number 44 of Diego Della Torre. Has to lose out there. Timit Kahacek settling in behind just about, but David going right around the outside and off the track on the exit of turn 2 as well. But up at the front of the field, great launch here for Preston Lambert. He leads FIFO Barrichello going into the hotel chicane, 3 wide further back, going in there with Timit Kahacek and Michael Shin, who has flown up the order. He's already side by side with his title rival. He'll have to go off the track as well as they go through turns 6 and 7, and just has to settle in behind yesterday's race winner. But that's a perfect start for Michael Shin. He's right on the back of his 2 title rivals.
You got 3 championship protagonists in 5th, 6th and 7th right now. Unfortunately for Kahacek, it looked like he had the better line coming through the first sector. Unfortunately for him, just could not quite take advantage now as Yevhen David tries to persevere up the field, managing to get past the 44 of Diego Della Torre, who now drops down through the field. Shin, who has certainly muscled in some immense overtakes. I said that he's the king of recovery drives. The car to the far left-hand side just breaking away. That's a Nielsen car further back. Here comes Kahacek to sweep right in front of him. He's looking to get past Diego Della Torre, coming through scene corner and making a scene coming through turn 10, as now Michael Shin looks to do the same, heading down in towards the Bousset. A move up the inside. Here comes the South Korean. Will to will with a Mexican sensation. Can Toro hold him back? Yes, he can.
That was so nearly contact again for Michael Shin going into Le Bousset. That was discretion being the better part of Valor there. We're right on board with the former championship leader. And now that's Ed Pearson trying to make a move on the Michael Shin car as well. I believe the car that straight lined the chicane was Finn Green. Shin with a dive on the inside on Diego Della Torre going into Virage Dupont. The Mexican was forced to leave him an awful lot of space, squeezing him over to the pit wall, but it's Shin with the momentum, and he'll have that clean braking line on the outside into the first corner. Doesn't even need it. He's already outbraked him down there as Everett Stack going around the outside of the first corner on Ed Pearson as well. We thought Pearson was going to be moving forward. It's actually Stack who's demoted him a spot.
Given the way the start's gone, Chris, I think if you're Preston Lambert, forget about team interplay. Try and take the win yourself. Currently looking really strong out in front ahead of Fernando Barrichello right now. It was wheel to wheel elsewhere. We got a Nielsen car going off wide. I think that might have been Finn Green again. The 24. No, it's Ed Pearson who has cut off to the escape. So now has to rejoin. Unfortunately, it hasn't been necessarily the most graceful of starts for the Nielsen Racing team so far as they look to try and flurry their way up. And a little inter-team battle now brewing with Gennaro Trapper, their new acquisition for this round here at Paul Ricard. Now looking to also tussle with his teammate here, Ed Pearson, and in fact they're going to do battle on the run in towards the Mistral chicane, side by side on the run down in towards the next left and right. Pearson going defensive, down the inside comes Trapper. Off the track goes Pearson, who will have to rejoin once again. Here's a replay from the start, Chris.
Well, that's Gino Trapper on his debut weekend, taking it to the man who's been leading the Nielsen team so far this season. Wasn't the best of launches for Gino Trapper. You see Michael Shin was having to take avoiding action off the line. Good heads-up driving there, but yeah, Gino Trapper's really sticking it to his teammates at the moment. Look at that, how's that for a view going into the first corner? Had so much space on the inside, did Michael, while everyone else was squabbling away. Perfect launch for Preston, though. That was brilliant. Look at the bravery there of Yevhen Davis, who was squeezed over. You see the car just bouncing around as the curbing on the inside of the first corner begins there rather than just the runoff area. You see right round the outside, and he did go off the racetrack. I'm sure that race control will be studying all of this to make sure that nobody gained a lasting advantage by going out there.
I mean, Yevhen David, I must say, I mean, a lot of the lines that he had fed to him from the start of the race, none of them were optimal. coming through turn 1. It was so tight. I was so impressed with how he's managed to maintain this 4th place as a result, because it looked like he was going to be up against it. But again, the Sri Lankan Lion showing that there's much more to racing than just simply racing lines. He made it work for him. He opened up the door around this circuit himself to try and ensure that he remained in the top 4 and within the fight here, with Timothy Karczyk now breathing down his neck. Of course, these two now really condensing in terms of the championship. And remember, of course, these two were on the top 2 steps of the podium, with Karczyk, of course, lifting his 4th race win aloft. And on top of that, equaling here with Yevon David, as now we have a 3-wide encounter with Everett Stack and also Gennaro Trapper, who has all of a sudden risen to the occasion here in the Euroformula Open Championship. And as opposed to yesterday, he's now looking to make moves, swapping all over the back here of Everett Stack on the run down through towards the Mistral chicane. They're almost 4 wide, heading down now into the braking zone. It's Diego Della Torre with Stack on his inside, the 2 Motor Park teammates meeting, but it's Gennaro Trapper who overtakes the pair of them and moves through ahead of Della Torre. He's now up to 7th. There's now the 2 Motor Parks once again, duel on the way down to turn 10.
Everett Stack trying to find a way through on the inside, does do so, and Pearson getting squeezed out there as well. But young Gino there, he's not short on a bit of confidence, is he, in his wheel-to-wheel scrapping? Pearson's got a problem here, I think, because he's skating off the road. I wondered, it did seem slow down the second element of the Mistral. It was weird for him to be just eaten up like that, and then the moment into Le Bousset as well. Hopefully all is well aboard that Nielsen Racing car. But dive on the inside, Yevon David on Jose Garfias for a spot on the podium there. That was aggressive stuff from the Sri Lankan, and it is Garfias, who finished on the podium yesterday, remember, who just hangs on to 3rd place for now. But that is the first strike there from Yevon David. Preston Lambert continues to lead by 9/10 of a second, but it's Timothy Karczyk in 5th position, who's just done the fastest lap of the race. He's on the back of Yevon David and Jose Garfias.
Yeah, yesterday was podium number 6 for Jose Garfias now, but still being furiously pursued by the Sri Lankan Yevon David, who's certainly made a name for himself in the realms of the Euroformula Open Championship. We look back at the last gasp attempts as they battled at Spa-Francorchamps between himself and Timothy Karczyk. It was a blockbuster to watch, absolutely sensational as the 2 rivals collided. But also enter Michael Shin, who once again is on a recovery mission. He's 1.3 away, and he's gone purple in the first sector to match, so trying to close the gap on his 2 fellow title rivals here and now. You can just see Garfias going defensive. A look from Karczyk as well. Now, Karczyk's got to have an element of caution about him this time. He is prone to go in for those overzealous moves. We look back at Hungaroring. A win was on the table for Karczyk, if you remember last time out, Chris. He made a desperate lunge up the inside at turn 1, and he paid the price with front wing damage.
He certainly did, and it really compromised his championship as well, and he just closed back in on the top 2 in the championship. Garfias really having to get his elbows out now on the exit of Scene Corner and into Le Bousset. Yevon David is looking every which way for a way past the Mexican in front of him, and is that going to open up the door for Timothy Karczyk? A nice wide line being taken on the way into Virage de Bloc, but no way through there. But he's going to line him up, surely. It's now Karczyk who's looking like the aggressor here against the championship leader, the new championship leader after yesterday's 2nd place finish. But Michael Shin right on the back of them as well. Now top 3 in the championship, line astern. This is a moment here for our race leader, Preston Lambert. Oh, no, this was the dive from Yevon David on the inside of Jose Garfias a lap ago. So Garfias did have to take to the runoff area, but no harm, no foul there, I think.
Yeah, so they make their way with 11 laps to go. Preston Lambert now, having concluded 4 laps so far, has now grown the gap to 9/10 to Fernando Barrichello, who has very nearly broken the slipstream on the Motor Park driver, the young Brazilian who, of course, registered his first ever Euroformula Open Championship victory at Austria last season. Of course, that'll be our next destination on the calendar and will, in fact, be our last visit for now to Red Bull Ring as of our calendar that is confirmed for next season, as we now watch them head down through towards the Mistral chicane. It is still Lambert on top. Barrichello's done well to recover some of the deficit. Remember, it was 9/10. It's now come back into 7, so 2/10 gained from Barrichello. All of it gained in that first sector on this very lap, because it was a 31.7 against the 31.9 that Preston Lambert managed to enlist as they head down in towards turn 10 at Scene. Still Garfias, who put up a stout defence against Yevon David after he attempted the move we saw the replay not too long ago coming through Pond Corner. Timo Kaharczyk just watching it all unfold, resting on the edge of patience here this time is the BVM driver, whilst chasing yet another podium to add to his locker. Remember, he needs to start finishing ahead of Yevon David in order to further close this gap in the points, and also finishing ahead of Shin is also vital, but Shin posting the fastest lap of the race as of the last time out of a 1:56.245 and looking extremely quick. Remember, it was 1.3 the gap earlier on. It's now 0.8 of a second as they now peel through the final sector once more, whipping out of those final corners through Ben D'Or, through Garlaband, later on Delator, and then out of Pont Corner once again. And they'll soon have 10 laps to run, 5 laps concluded. Lambert now with Barrichello in hot pursuit, leading the race. It could be a breakthrough debut weekend here for Preston Lambert if he keeps this up, and you never know. He starts on pole later on today as well. Could he go back-to-back on top of starting on the front row of the grid? Let's find out.
Still a long way to go, only a third of the way through this race. And Barrichello is keeping him very honest at the moment. A touch quicker on that previous lap to the tune of just under 0.2 of a second. The gap about 3/4 of a second between Lambert and Barrichello. Garfias has dropped back by about 1.2 seconds now to Barrichello. And he's very much still got Yevon David, Kaharczyk, and now Michael Shin for close company. Then there's about 8 seconds back to Gino Trapper, who's continuing to lead that second train of cars, which is Everett Stack, Ed Pearson, and Diego Delator and Finn Green. And so the young Argentinian is really not shying away. And here it is side by side, actually, with Everett Stack on the outside line going towards the chicane of the Mistral. He runs out wide. Pearson locks up behind them as well. No way through for Stack there, but he'll get an excellent run onto the second element of the Mistral, I'd have thought. And so Gino Trapper now with the car to his outside, to driver's left as they head towards the fastest corner of the season. This is where Shin and Pearson made contact yesterday. They managed to make it through very safely, and a little chop across the nose there from Everett Stack, but Trapper sends it right back on the inside. That's going to open up the door for Pearson as well in the sister Nielsen racing car, and so great teamwork between them. Stack launches it back up the inside at Virage Ben D'Or. And can Pearson cut back underneath him again? This is great wheel-to-wheel racing. Pearson's getting squeezed out to the far left hand of the circuit. And coming into the penultimate corner, he does keep it on the inside. And now that looked like a yellow flag being waved very briefly. Yeah, there's a car in the barrier on the left-hand side. Yevon David has lost his front wing, the championship leader, with damage. Where's Timo Kaharczyk as well? Have we had contact between them? Yes, so Yevon David has had contact with Jose Garfias. And so that was the car in the runoff area there. That's why there was the yellow flag out, and we've had a front wing lost for Yevon David. So that's disaster for Garfias, disaster for Yevon David, great news for Kaharczyk and Michael Shin. And we saw a wry smile on the face of Giuseppe Mizzotti there, and I think that was more because that his car is now in a podium place.
And this was the second time this has happened as well, because we look back yesterday when Shin had his crash coming through Scene Corner. The BVM cars managed to avoid all the chaos that moment. Again, a wry smile on the face Giuseppe Mizzotti, just for the sheer reason that once again they've evaded the chaos that is now erupted coming through Pond Corner. All this has allowed Timo Kaharczyk now to inherit P3. 2 BVM cars now stand on the podium, and plenty of clear air here now for Kaharczyk to gain on the back of Fernando Barrichello, who sits in second. So if you're Preston Lambert, you're about to get some help here, because here comes your teammate Michael Shin, also still part of this. This is perfect for Kaharczyk. Once again, he can close that points gap to Yevon David. Of course, David's still going around in 5th, but surely he has to come in to get that wing changed.
He will have to. Green flags now waving at turn 15, so Garfias has been able to continue on his way by the looks of it. So that has promoted Kaharczyk to 3rd, Michael Shin to 4th. Yevon David still currently 5th, but I'm sure we'll have to come into pit lane. Off the road there, Gino Trapper with a helping hand from Everett Stack coming out of Le Bousset into the 3rd sector, and so that should be Stack quite comfortably now into 6th position. And then it's battle on again between the 2 Nielsen teammates. Slightly wide there for Trapper as he defends the inside line. Oh, swapper though for the Argentinian. Gets it all wrong and then runs off into the runoff area, and that allows Pearson a very clean line through. And this battle is about to actually be for 5th position, because Yevon David has come in to the box. to get that front nose changed.
I can imagine he's very frustrated there, obviously having finished second yesterday on the podium with Shin, obviously DNFing at the end of the race, inheriting the championship lead then as a result. Unfortunately now, it looks like whilst he will probably likely retain it, or maybe it could get swap actually, we'll have to double check at the end of the race, it will obviously give an opportunity to Karchik to once again close that gap. It's really working out to be a full-on BVM weekend. Karchik has just gone purple in the first sector. They're now busy trying to put the new front wing on the car for the Sri Lankan, and just fixing it onto the car now, this time as he waits to go back out again. But Barrichello still on the tail of young Preston Lambert, who in his first weekend could be on the cusp of winning his very first Euroformula Open race. Still a long way to go though, 8 laps left. And Karchik is getting closer. He's only 2 seconds away from Barrichello now. Make that 1.8. He went purple in the first sector, as I said. He went just a little bit, a smidge faster than Barrichello, but it was enough for purple. And the middle sector, he was near enough 2 tenths quicker than Barrichello coming through that portion of track as well. So I'm telling you now, Giuseppe Mazzotti, you have a great reason to be smiling right now.
10-second time penalty for Yevon David for causing a collision. Now that's really, just looking at the situation he's in at the moment, going to affect him too much. In fact, they're having to change some of the elements of the front left suspension that were obviously damaged in that collision. So they were taking a really good look at that. But so yeah, 10 seconds is not really going to change anything for him in this race. Crucially, it's not a penalty that will affect race 3, like a grid drop, for example. So he's pretty much, well, apart from the damage that he's sustained, quote unquote, gotten away with it.
Well, also Garfius, unfortunately, the unfortunate receiver, who's now down at 11th as well. So it's not a grand result at all for Motor Park in that extent. And obviously, Yevon David flying the flag for them in terms of the championship fight at the moment. Of course, Michael Shin is as well too. 1.7 away from Karchik. 1.6 between Karchik and Barrichello. Fastest lap still in the pocket of the pole as he looks to continue to strive and close the gap. But it's 1.6 now. Make that 1.5 as they come through the latter stage of Sector 1. He's working away to try and bring the gap down between himself and Barrichello. Remember, it was beyond 2 seconds. He's reined in half a second now, has Karchik, as they storm down through towards the chicane. But once again, Preston Lambert still ushering out a reasonable time, maintaining the gap ahead of Barrichello at the moment, who I'm sure will be waiting for his chance. Of course, the son of the great Rubens Barrichello, of course, who raced in Formula 1, partnering the likes of Michael Schumacher back in Ferrari during their immensely successful run in the 2000s, and also on part coming out of the realms of Stewart Ford Racing as well. Of course, has driven for many teams at the very precipice of the sport nowadays. Of course, Rubens racing in Brazilian stock car. Of course, has got another senator, Dudu Barrichello. He's, of course, also been, in fact, had a drive in Le Mans this year as well, didn't he, Chris?
Yeah, been doing very well out there in the World Endurance Championship with Ford.
Yeah.
At the moment, and yeah, of course, Rubens these days fleeting between racetrack to racetrack to either race himself or, more often than not now, supports his sons. I was just double-checking Preston Lambert's single-seater record. He was a race winner in the Formula Pro Western Championship over in the States. Yevon David comes back out onto the racetrack with a repaired car now. And that's very much like the introductory, come and drive single-seaters for the first time in your life type of championship. But since moving over to Europe, he has not taken a race win in the Formula Winter Series, Spanish F4, or the Euro Cup championship. So this would be a first win since that first single-seater experience.
Timmy Karchik turning on the style now, Chris. Last lap was 7 tenths quicker nearer the realm of Fernando Barrichello, so it's now inside of a second already here between Karchik and Barrichello this time. So he's about to be in the midst of a BVM sandwich, firm and proper, is Fernando Barrichello. Michael Shin currently sat 2 seconds off. He's also closing the gap, but will he have enough laps in order to potentially fight for a higher end place? In a puff of smoke there and a tyre squeal, just going off wide. Obviously, remember, Yevon David came out ahead of this bunch, heading into the Mistral, heading out back out onto the circuit, now coming through the Mistral chicane, of course, as we now watch them venture out. And there indeed is Yevon David, I think just locking up a little bit slightly. Coming through the midway point on this track in Sector 2. We're now watching as Barrichello now comes through towards turn 10, chasing after race leader Lambert. who's leading the charge now, still putting in some pretty decent sector times, but Kaharczyk putting in the best sector times out of any of them. Now 7/10 away from Barrichello, still holding the fastest lap, and it was a purple middle sector again from Timo Kaharczyk in sector 2. He is really starting to go to work now. A potential second win could be on the cards.
Has BVM ever had a 1-2 in this championship?
Never have. Not in the history, not as far as I know.
They've only come with one car since they came back.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if before that.
I mean, they only had their first win at Paul Ricard yesterday, and so they could be set to make it back to back here this time around.
Not just here, like ever.
Yeah, no, of course. No, I think it would be a first. So it looks like it could be on the cards, unless Barrichello could do something about it as they come down in towards turn 1. You can just see there the familiar colours of the BVM car that Francesco Simonazzi, of course, drove last season. Now out on this Paul Ricard circuit, looking to bring it to the checkered flag, and it could be a really huge weekend here for Preston Lambert if he can pull this off. 5 laps to go, 10 laps concluded. Kaharczyk once again fastest. Again, out of the top 3, after registering a 1:56.351, was ultimately 5/10 quicker than his own teammate over the last lap. So we'll continue to start punching holes in the delta, and will then eventually, I'm sure look to challenge FIFO Barrichello for that second place spot. Let's have a look here at a nice slow-mo shot of our race leader, Preston Lambert, the man from the States, really showing off what he can do behind the wheel. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of hope from Giuseppe Mazzotti's side that they can bring him back for future rounds. I must say, he really has impressed, and it really has kicked off from qualifying, where he did, of course, land a P6, and then, of course, later finishing inside that top 6 as well again during the race, which then means, of course, that he gets the 2 pole positions for not just this one, but for the race 3 that we have coming up later on this afternoon, where he'll hope to pull off the same exploits that he's doing right now. But, of course, we still await the 5 laps to take us through the checkered flag as we come through the Bousset. FIFO Barrichello still keeping him honest at the moment. And as they make their way through the final sector, Timo Kaharczyk will be hunting them down. They've developed a gap now to Michael Shin. Remember, Shin brought it down to 2 seconds. 7/10 has now been planted on Michael Shin this time. So it's very much turning into a top 3 scrap. And all of them inside the top 3, equal to one another, 5/10 apart between Lambert and Barrichello, 5/10 between Barrichello and Kaharczyk.
4 laps to go when they cross the stripe then, and it is just 1 second that separates the top 3. You've got the debutant Preston Lambert, who has led this race since the off from reverse grid pole, doing an exceptional job out there. You've got young FIFO Barrichello in his 2nd year in this championship, chasing after a 2nd victory, and then the man who's been dominating qualifying and our championship contender, Timo Kaharczyk, in the 2nd BVM car, chasing them both down in 3rd position. They're 2.7 clear of Michael Shin now, who doesn't seem to have an answer for the pace of the top 3 at the moment. They make their way down the Mistral once again. Still no look here from FIFO Barrichello. You can see Yevon David in the back of the shot, but he is not in this fight. Michael Shin now 11 seconds ahead of Everett Stack as well, meanwhile. Then Ed Pearson and Gino Trapper, who's about to score his first points in this championship. And this could be just a sensational breakthrough result if Timo can get past FIFO.
Absolutely. I mean, incidentally, Chris, drivers from the United States have had a great record at this circuit. I mean, Lambert could be the 5th driver to win here at Paul Ricard in the Euroformula Open, and to continue a grand record. Over the last 2 years, we've had 2 drivers lay claim to victories. Of course, last season it was Brad Benavides in race 2 here at Paul Ricard, and it was race 2 again the year before where Bryce Aaron would go on to victory as well. But years before that, we've seen the likes of Cameron Dass and Jack Crawford take a United States clean sweep that weekend in all 3 races. 2021, Jack Crawford won the first 2 races, 40 Motor Park, and then it was Cameron Dass, also of a Motor Park, taking victory in race 3 as well, as Barrichello just takes a little alternate line to Lambert, just trying to throw him off perhaps a little bit, just firing a warning shot, because he knows now that we're reaching ultimately a very sensitive stage in the race. With only 3 laps to go now, Lambert in the race of his life right now in the Euroformula Open Championship, looking to bring home BVM a 2nd victory back-to-back. But will Kaharczyk enter the fold and make it a 1-2 in what could be a first here for BVM?
There's a I was saying in yesterday's race, people mainly know Preston Lambert from that video at the airport with the simulator. Have you done anything like this before? Yeah, I raced Formula 3 in real life. But the story that I don't think gets told enough, that on his 16th birthday, he was told, you don't have enough money to continue racing. And he thought the dream was done. He's managed to scramble together every penny he possibly can to keep the dream alive. And now he could be on course for a spectacular victory here in the Euroformula Open Championship. And I think he'll have to come back if this happens. But he's still got 2.5 laps remaining to try and fend off Barrichello.
And it's not just that, Chris, it'll be his first win in Europe as well, which is absolutely massive. It's some of the biggest racetracks that we visit in the world, many of them frequented by Formula One as well. Of course, Paul Ricard no longer the home of the French Grand Prix right now, but of course, the last home and the reigning home of the French Grand Prix. Appreciate we haven't been here now for a few years, but Preston Lambert now coming under fire as Barrichello has the inside line as they battle over the race lead, wheel to wheel on the run out of Bousset, and now Lambert onto the curb. Barrichello with a chance here. He's found a frail avenue here against young United States man Preston Lambert. They're almost side by side and almost touching, but Barrichello now takes the race lead as they come through the final sector. The Brazilian hails in front. Motor Park with a last chance here to potentially usurp the BVM approach to taking a potential second win this weekend.
It's not over yet. 2 laps to go. Then Barrichello hits the front for the first time in this race. And I was just about to say, this will be the phase of the race where he has that less experienced Preston Lambert, because the Pirelli rubber is going to be fading. Everyone else has got more experience on it. He's probably going to be struggling a little bit more than the others out there. And already Barrichello is starting to try and build a bit of an advantage. And if you're BVM now, you need to get Timic into second place as quick as possible to try and chase after Barrichello on the final lap, potentially.
Yeah, the straight will be the place to do it as well, Chris. The Mistral must be the location to make that happen, I'm sure. Let's have a look at the replay. Fantastic effort from Barrichello to make that move happen, and still kept all 4 wheels near enough on the racetrack as well. Fantastic effort from the young Brazilian, who managed to get past after a fabulous run at the front from Preston Lambert. I can't help but feel a little bit sorry for him that it came unstuck. And just look at the reaction inside the Motor Park garage as well. Giovanni Scala, of course, just leaving himself quietly reserved because he knows this is far from over. Of course, Timic Kaharczyk still waiting in the wings in third. Remember, also chasing the championship this season and currently the highest placed out of the top 3 in terms of the championship in this very race. Preston Lambert also can still cause a stir. I have no doubt about that. His pace is certainly very clear. He can fight with these front runners. And Barrichello, it has been a long time since that first win back at Red Bull Ring last year. He could be set to taste victory once again, this time at Paul Ricard.
So Michael Shin should retake the championship lead, I think, although Michael does have the fastest lap point at the moment as well. No, sorry, Kaharczyk has the fastest lap point, which actually might give it to Timic on count back. I have to do some mental arithmetic. Obviously, we'll get the standings at the end of it, but of course, Yevon David scoring no points in this one. And so we'll see the championship lead change hands once again. It's 1 lap remaining then in the second race of the weekend of the Euroformula Open Championship, the 5th meeting of the season here at the circuit. Paul Ricard, Fernando Barrichello, who took the lead a lap ago, leads by just 0.6 of a second to the debutant Preston Lambert and his championship contesting teammates Timic Kaharczyk in 3rd position. 1.2 seconds covers the top 3 as we head into the hotel chicane for the final time. Is there going to be a swap for second place? It looks like BVM is just going to let these 2 drivers duke it out on pure pace alone as we head around turn 6 and 7 for the final time. Barrichello with a good advantage. Lambert is not in striking distance as we head down the Mistral for the final time. If it's going to happen anywhere, surely it will happen into the chicane. We'll keep an eye on Timic Kaharczyk as well as he tries to bag himself some extra points. I think if he takes second, he would definitely take the lead in the championship, but he has to settle in behind his rookie teammate for now.
Yeah, he certainly does. Coming onto the outset now, the second half of the chicane. Michael Shin also desperately trying to close to see whether he can at least give himself an opportunity of getting onto the podium, but it might be, in this case, too little, too late. Blasting through scene for the final time here in race 2, and Fernando Barrichello looking to bring what would be, I'm sure, in his mind, an absolutely astonishing victory, a fantastic drive. He's come close to podiums several times in the past. If we take a look back at his record, only one podium already scored this season, and it, of course, was a 3rd place. But now looking to add a very, very deserved victory after a fantastic move coming through the final sector at Bendor through Garlaban for the final time, and Barrichello seemingly with enough gap to prevent Lambert retaking the lead here, Chris.
There's a stunning manoeuvre from Barrichello, 2 laps to go to take the lead, and that is going to pay off big time here. FIFO Barrichello takes a 2nd career win in the Euroformula Open Championship, his 1st of the season. Preston Lambert with a stunning podium finish on his debut weekend ahead of Timothy Kahacek. 1.2 between the top 3 in the end. Michael Shin across the line in 4th position. We'll do the math to see who is now leading the championship. Everett Stack across the line in 5th there ahead of Ed Pearson. Gino Trapper, he's certainly got his elbows out in what is actually effectively his first race in the Euroformula, because he stalled off the line yesterday and didn't even take part in the race. So he's really, really impressed on his first appearance here. Oh, no! Contact on the cool-down lap!
And that's
Between
Timothy
Kahacek.
And there's wing damage on Timothy Kahacek's car as well. I mean, we very seldom see anything quite like that. I'm not sure quite who's to blame, really. Let's take a look at this again.
This is Barrichello going slow around the hotel chicane. Timmick arrives with a bit of speed. And Barrichello be thinking, what are you doing, mate?
Well, in that situation, you can only feel sorry for the guys in the garage who've now got to repair that now, ready for race 3.
It's quite... how tight's the turnaround?
Well, I mean, we go racing results, though, Chris.
Yeah, so we're racing at 4:30-ish, but it's a 2nd win in the Euroformula Open Championship for Fernando Barrichello. A 1st of the season for the Brazilian, a sensational 1st podium on his debut weekend for Preston Lambert, and it's a double podium for BVM Racing with Timothy Kahacek in 3rd position, Michael Shin in 4th, Everett Stack 5th, Ed Pearson ahead of his Nilsson Racing teammate Gino Trapper, Diego Della Torre, Finn Green and Paolo Brasnik inside the top 10. But we lost Jose Garfias. Oh no, Jose Garfias across the line in the end in 11th place, but we had Yevon David in the pit lane after contact with Jose Garfias into the final corner. The championship leader not scoring any points, and here we can now see what it's done to the Drivers' Championship. So Yevon does hang on to it by 1 point. 2 points between the top 3 in the championship going into our final race of the weekend. You could not make this up.
This is phenomenal, folks. You do not want to turn away. One mistake can change everything, and it certainly has, because now Yevon David, whilst he does have that lead, 2 points is all that separates them. Fernando Barrichello with that win as well closes the gap to Ed Pearson for 5th in the championship, ushering in potentially yet another motor park car inside the top 5. But that does also mean, with Barrichello's victory, our 6th different race winner this season, to join the likes of Ed Pearson, who of course took the very first win of this season's championship back at Portimao in race 1. Jose Garfias with 2 wins against his name, Kahacek, of course, making it number 4 yesterday, levelling up with current championship leader by 1 point, Yevon David. Both Timek and Yevon David, 2 of the most popular drivers in terms of the fan support this season in the Euroformula Open Championship, level on wins, 1 point apart in the title race, with them currently standing Ps1 and Ps2, with Michael Shin then a point behind Timek, making it 2 points between Ps1 and Ps3. And of course, Michael Shin 2 times a race winner as well. So there you have it. It is truly a feisty and such a competitive outlay that we have for the rest of the campaign. And with race 3 coming up this afternoon, you do not want to miss it. But I have to tell you, the 2 young guys, the new blood that we've got coming into the Euroformula Open Championship, Preston Lambert, has impressed today. He should not be disappointed with that performance. A 2nd place finish, a brilliant way to kickstart his first weekend in the Euroformula Open Championship. I also want to give a shout out to Gino Trapper as well. Whilst of course there was no great grandiose finish inside the top 6, he gave us a show. It was a blockbuster performance, but for this man as well, Fernando Barrichello, second win in the Euroformula Open Championship and recovering as well. I can only imagine the celebration's going to be raw. It's going to be vibrant, mean and green and luminous here in Parc Fermé as he returns the wheel to the chassis of the Dallara 324, stands tall upon it and celebrates a victory and a long-awaited, deserved one to make it his second in the series, and a big hug with his team as well. Jubilance here in Parc Fermé as he is carried and thrown in the air in sheer celebration.
Who'd have thought that of the three drivers getting into Parc Fermé, it'd be the rookie who come back with the undamaged car? But that incident has been noted by race control on the cool-down lap, but it certainly hasn't dampened FIFO's spirits there, has it?
One of the moves of the season,
absolutely.
Chris, I think.
Yeah, that was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. You got Giovanni as engineer and Raul, the driver coach, on the left-hand side as well. This is a feel-good result for the paddock, I think.
It's massive.
And I don't believe Rubens is here this weekend.
No,
either.
he's missed it. Well, I mean, just look at you look at the top three, and I must say, you look at it on paper, you've got three very deserved top three sitters. Michael Shin, driving from where he was. P11, remember, folks, at the start of the race, managed to move up incredibly into P4. So ultimately managed to charge 7 places through the course of the race.
Congratulations being given by Jesus Pereira, the CEO of the GT Sport organization, the driving force behind the Euroformula Open Championship. Very high praise indeed. Timothy Kahacek on the podium for the second time this weekend after victory yesterday, storming through the order. Great results for him. It's a double BVM podium as the debutant Preston Lambert makes it second place from reverse grid pole. Great result for the American driver. But for Fifo Barrichello, it is a first win of the season after a sensational maneuver. Let's hear from him.
Fernando, well done. And what a move at the end. Tell us about that.
What an incredible race. I mean, they have incredible pace BVM, so kudos to them this weekend. And I was just in the back waiting for an opportunity, just really praying like to have one chance. And I was able to maximize. I have no word. I'm been a little bit of nowhere because it's been such a tough year for us. So many unfortunate things happen, but thank God we have the opportunity to compete. I have to thank CoinSpade, Crypto Processing. They are the one that make this like real life, you know. So I have no words. This is just the beginning. I'm delighted, really.
It's a very special win for Motopark, number 400.
It's a pleasure to work with this team. They're such professionals, and it's my second year with them, and they've developed me into the driver I am. So I have no words. And pai, te amo, eu sei que você tá aí. Te amo muito, cara. Não tenho palavras. Obrigado.
Well done. Parabéns.
Thank you.
Highlights then from race 2 in the Euroformula Open Championship. It was a great launch from Preston Lambert, the debutant, on reverse grid pole position with Fernando Barrichello tucking in behind. Yevon David was all over the curbing on the extreme left-hand side of the racetrack going into the first corner. David ended up going off the road on the exit of turn 2 as well as he tried to fight his way through and then tried to take third position away from Jose Garfias. That was attempt number 1 with Garfias going off the road. Attempt number 2 ended a little bit worse with Garfias being pitched round and Yevon David, the championship leader, losing his front wing. Preston came under pressure from Barrichello throughout the entire race. Timothy Kahacek, championship protagonist, waiting in the wings there as well. But a fantastic manoeuvre from Fernando Barrichello, forcing Preston Lambert to go wide on the exit of Le Bousset and right round the outside of the Virage Bendor to take the lead in spectacular fashion with only a couple of laps remaining and making Fifo Barrichello the happiest driver in the Euroformula paddock as he celebrated with great force in Parc Fermé with his team for a second career win in the championship. And so to the podium then, Timothy Kahacek for the second time this weekend after victory yesterday on the rostrum. Second place though for Preston Lambert. He should not be disappointed with that at all. A shake of the hands between the teammates. I certainly hope we'll see more of Preston Lambert in this championship. If this is what he's doing after 2 races, what can he do after a few more? But we will all stand and celebrate the moment with Fernando Barrichello. A fantastic moment for the youngster, the 19-year-old from Sao Paulo, with the motor park representative on the right-hand side as well. And of course, we will have Paolo Brajnik as the gold class driver. Of course, Preston not only second place, but also taking the rookie class victory. But for Fernando Barrichello, we will now hear the Brazilian national anthem. What a moment for FIFO, second career win, first of the season. And as he said, it has been a difficult sophomore year so far in the Euroformula Open Championship.
But what a way for Motorpark to take their 400th win in the Euroformula Open Championship. Credits to them for that. Obviously, the trophy's now being presented. Representative from Cosworth now presenting the second place trophy to Preston Lambert. And I'm sure this will be one of many with performances like that. Tim Archik accepting the third place trophy, as now the winning trophy gets presented to Fernando Barrichello and will be long remembered. I'm sure wherever Rubens is, he will be cheering his son along as always.
So the Cosworth representative giving the team's trophy to Motor Park. And as you say, they've got 400 of those now. Quite an astonishing record they have amassed in this championship. I'm sure great for Cosworth to be presenting that trophy, of course, providing the electronics for this car. Oh, again, a little swap between the trophies, isn't it? That was the rookie class trophy that was mistakenly given. And so it will be 2 trophies for Preston, though, as the top rookie class driver. And they'll pose for the photographs. And, well, it is now just 2 points that separate the top 3 in the championship. It doesn't get much better than that. And we've still got one more race to come this weekend here. It is lights out for the second of our reverse grid races, the Euroformula Open Championship at 4:25 p.m. And so until then, we will see you soon.